Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Life of a Business Manager podcast. This is the podcast where we break down the real world skills that every business manager needs to succeed. I'm your host, Sina Chan, and in today's episode, we are talking about how to align teams that don't report directly to you. So, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because this is just from my experience, but if you are the go to person as a business manager, you're expected to drive projects forward, connect departments, and deliver results, even when people don't actually report to you. And this has happened to me multiple times where you get into a project, everyone around you in the meeting doesn't actually report to you, but you are in charge of the project in order for you to get it done. So different teams have different priorities. And leadership is always wanting things to move as quickly as possible. And communications can get messy. So just be aware that you're the one responsible for making everything kind of work together. So, in this episode, we're going to break down the reality of being a business manager and dealing with all of the tasks and managing alignments. We're going to talk about the biggest mistakes that business managers make. And then we're also going to talk about how the chaos of all of this happens, especially when you're dealing with team members that don't report to you. And then we're going to talk about how you are the unofficial leader in these projects. So just think of that for a minute. And then we're going to talk about the practical strategies to align teams and then close out the episode. And I hope this is a good one that you guys are going to listen to because I actually think this is something that we are all involved in, but we don't realize it. Is when you take on projects, no one reports to you, but you are the owner of the project and you have to move this project forward. So let's get to the episode. Okay, everyone, let's get started with segment one, which is the reality of business management. So, one of the biggest reality of being a business manager is this: the job is less about managing tasks and more about managing alignment. That's why we're talking about it during this episode. Almost every project depends on multiple departments working together. HR, finance, IT, operation, leadership. They all come with different priorities, timelines, and goals. And in theory, organizations promote collaboration within these departments, but in reality, business managers often face delayed responses, competing priorities, communication breakdowns, ownership gaps, and endless meetings that create more work for you as a business manager instead of less work. As a business manager, you're often the one in the middle trying to keep everything moving forward. That's why cross functional leadership is such a critical skill. So, aligning all the team members that don't report under you is super important in moving projects forward. No matter how strong the strategy is, the execution always falls apart when teams are not aligned. Okay, everyone, let's go into segment two, which is the biggest mistake business managers make when trying to align team members that don't report under you. So, one of the biggest mistakes business managers make in a cross functional environment is trying to lead through control instead of influence. So, when projects slow down, the natural reaction is to push harder. Most people think more emails, more meetings, more follow ups. I've done this too, totally guilty. But the reality is, you can't force alignment from teams that don't report to you. Real leadership in these situations come from influence. Influence means building the trust, communicating clearly, creating credibility, and helping teams understand the bigger picture behind the work. Most departments aren't resisting to be difficult. They're protecting their own priorities, their own workloads, their timelines, and their responsibility. That's why the way you approach collaboration really matters when you're trying to align teams that don't report to you. When leadership feels forced, people will pull back from you. But when teams understand the shared goal and feel included in the process, collaboration becomes much easier afterwards. So that is one of the biggest mistakes that I think business managers make when they're trying to align team members that don't report to them. Okay, everyone, let's go into segment three, which is how the actual chaos starts. So with cross-functional chaos, it rarely begins when a project officially fails. It actually starts much earlier through unclear expectations, vague ownership, and lack of alignment. Teams move in different directions, deadlines become unclear, responsibilities fall through the cracks, and meetings end without real accountability. So over time, small communication gaps can turn into delays, frustration, and operational breakdown. That's why one of the most valuable skills a business manager can develop is operational clarity. Not managing people, but creating structure, ownership, communication, and direction across multiple teams. Sometimes the most powerful thing that you can say in a meeting, for example, is who owns this? What does success look like for each of the departments involved? Because every department measures their success differently. Operations may prioritize the speed of a project, finance focus on cost control, HR will prioritize compliance. IT department will focus on security. Leadership wants visibility and results. So, the role of the business manager is bringing all of those competing priorities together into one shared direction before the chaos actually begins. And often, one simple sentence that can always prevent major confusion is always use before we move forward, let's clarify ownership. Clarifying ownership of each of the projects is so important because you know who to contact, you know who's taking accountability, and you also know who you can reach out to if you have any questions. So, those are the reasons why chaos starts. Okay, everyone, let's go to segment 4, which is being the unofficial leader. So, one of the most underrated parts of being a business manager is becoming the unofficial leader in the room, even without the title and the formal authority. Business managers are often closest to the day to day execution. You see all the bottlenecks, understand the operational challenges, and recognize where communication starts breaking down. Because of that, teams naturally look to you for guidance and direction. But leading without authority requires some sort of emotional intelligence. You have to know when to push forward, when to listen, when to escalate issues, and when people simply need to feel heard before solutions can happen after. So, working with cross functional teams naturally creates tension because every department operates differently. Finance will focus on numbers, operations will focus on workflow, HR will focus on policies, and leadership always focus on strategy. That's why one of the most valuable skill that a business manager can develop is learning how to translate priorities between teams, helping different departments understand each other so everyone can move towards the same goal. Part of the role is becoming a translator, honestly, between departments, not just relying on information, but translating priorities into a language that each team can actually understand. This is why you are the unofficial leader, and that's a great leadership skill to have as a business manager. Okay, everyone, let's go into segment 5, which is practical strategies to align the teams that don't report directly to you. So let's just bring this all together and provide you some strategies that you can use in your current role right now. If you want to reduce the chaos as a business manager, it comes down to just 4 strategies. Now, these are the ones that I think are very important to move forward with projects. Obviously, do your research, but these are the ones I feel can help you move projects within an organization. So let's go over the first one. So the first one is to build relationships before you actually need them. So a lot of people wait for a crisis before they actually introduce themselves to other departments. But I actually think it's important for you to build relationships within the organization because you never know when you need someone to help you with the crisis. The strongest business managers are the ones already known as being collaborative, not reactive. And that trust makes everything easier when the pressure hits you. The second key strategy is to over communicate, but keep it simple. So teams don't need more information, they actually just need clarity. So, clear updates on what's happening, who owns what, what's needed, and what are the deadlines and risks that can prevent the breakdowns before it actually starts. Definitely over communicate. I always think it's great to always just ask for a follow up, an update. Even if you're confused, just say, look, I'm confused about this project. I just need to know where it stands. So, over communicating will get you farther than not communicating at all. That's my opinion. The third key strategy is to create visibility. So, what happens is cross functional teams' work can fall apart when people can't see what's actually going on. So, this is just my opinion. I mean, To each its own, depending on how open you are to sharing a lot of your dashboards. But I recommend having either a shared dashboard, smart sheet, trackers, and summaries that help everyone stay aligned and reduce any confusion, especially when you have meetings in order to talk about these projects. So when everything is shared and everyone has access, I think it's better for you. So then you can communicate that, it's been shared. And if there's any questions, they can always ask afterwards. But oversharing your documents doesn't hurt you, in my opinion, especially if you're trying to move projects forward. The fourth key strategy is don't assume alignment. Just because people are agreed in a meeting, we all agree when we're in a Zoom meeting and everyone's showing their face and we all, moving forward the project. But always confirm the ownership, the expectations, the deadlines, because a lot of the operational issues come from what was never actually clarified. So just make sure, don't assume anything. If you have a question, just ask. And finally, learn how to influence. So when I talk about influence, I really think that real influence isn't about being manipulative. It's actually understanding what matters to each team and connecting the work back to their goals, their workloads, and their outcomes. When people actually see how it benefits them, the alignment will start to come right after and it starts becoming natural. So, those are the four strategies that I think are helpful if you are trying to align team members who don't directly report to you. Okay, everyone, as we wrap up this episode, here's the key takeaway on how to align team members that don't directly report to you. You don't need direct authority to create alignment with everyone. You just need trust, clarity, strong communication, consistency, and influence. That's what effective business managers rely on, not control over every single department, but the ability to guide different teams towards a shared goal. Because in many organizations, the most valuable person isn't always the loudest or the most senior. It's usually the one quietly connecting all the moving pieces behind the scenes and keeping everything aligned. Okay, everyone, we're going to close out this episode. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Life of a Business Manager podcast. Again, if you found today's episode helpful, share it with another manager who's probably feeling the same way. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you haven't already, make sure to follow the podcast, leave a review, and connect with Life of a Business Manager community online. I do have a website that's live, so feel free to check it out. And if you have any questions about the role, suggestions for future topics, or stories of your own, I'd love to hear from you. You can find my email in the show notes below. As always, thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, bye everyone. Hi, everyone. Just a reminder the content provided in our podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to consult with appropriate professionals before making any business decisions based on the information provided in this podcast. We do not endorse any products or services mentioned unless stated in any of our episodes. Thank you so much for listening.